Hey guys, here we go, testing 1, 2. I'm Mark Lyons, welcome to my front room in beautiful Los Angeles, California. What we're going to be doing today is continuing on with our instructional bass series. So real quick, want to give a shout out to my friends over at Sub TV Music who put me on their list of best new bassists. Thank you so much, guys. And hopefully we're going to be able to kick this thing up a notch a little bit because it's been a while since the last video when we've been going over the modes, and I wanted to get a wider angle here so that you could see a little bit more what's going on the fretboard, maybe improve the quality of the sound a little bit. So what we're going to do is continue on. We were going over the modes, and in my last episode I just went over the major scale and the minor scale. And just a very quick review of what happened before that. We started off with this is the bass, just very beginning, and then we went through the pentatonic scales, then we went through the circle of fifths. Now we're going through the modes. So with the last episode again, there was the major scale and the minor scale, and then I spoke a little bit about how to practice those going around the circle of fifths using a metronome. So with no further ado, I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're going to do for this episode, and thanks so much for waiting, all you guys who have been following me. Now I'm going to go ahead and go over 3 modes today, and the purpose of that is to just kind of get this thing going and really kick it up a notch. So after I go over that, we're going to go over a couple of different forms that you can use to practice the modes. We're going to go over rhythm changes, which is a jazz form, which will be a lot of fun. And then we're going to go over just a nice little bossa nova groove, and we're going to start going over just showing you ways to practice those 3 modes with that little groove. So that'll be nice. And then after that you can go around the circle of fifths. So here we go. We did major scale. Okay, so we're going to go over the Dorian mode today, the Phrygian mode, and the Mixolydian mode. And basically what that is the 2 chord, the 3 chord, and the 5 chord. So with that you'll have the 1 chord, which is major, the 2 chord, Dorian, the 3 chord, Phrygian, you're going to have the 5 chord, and you already have the 6 chord, and then back to 1. And then the next one we'll go over the 4 and 7. Those will be all 7 modes, but as of today you'll have all of them except for the last 2, and we'll start improvising. Alright, so here we go. Now if you've been with me, the Dorian mode is the mode that starts on the 2 chord, and it's exactly like the natural minor with one exception. And so if you know the natural minor, if you practiced the Aeolian mode, then this will be no sweat. And even if you went over the pentatonic scale, the minor pentatonic, it's no sweat. The Dorian minor is exactly like natural minor, except there's one exception. Dorian minor has a natural 6th interval. So we would start, if we're in the key of C, start on the 2. Remember, like I said before, these are all the same notes. You're just starting on a different interval and ending on a different interval. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And our natural minor, if we were playing a natural minor on the D, it would be okay, so this is natural 6. Now if you were to stay over here, you would notice that it falls very nicely within this framework. If you were just to start it with your pinky, we're playing in C, you go D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Alrighty? So that's Dorian scale, Dorian mode. Now the Phrygian scale again, is exactly like the natural minor, with one exception. The Phrygian scale has a flat 2. So you would go, right? So we're in the key of C. Then you got the D. Then you got the E, E minor. And see how they all kind of want to, you can just tell that it just belongs to the key of C. And there's a bit of a resolution. So that is your Phrygian scale, exactly like the natural minor. If we were playing a natural minor, beginning on the key of E, it would go, of course, but that wouldn't belong to C. The Phrygian scale, Phrygian mode, flat 2. Okay, now, Mixolydian scale. The Mixolydian scale is exactly like the major scale with one exception. And you're going to find me saying this a lot because that was why I went through those other scales first. Once you know those scales, the rest of them are a piece of cake. You know the Mixolydian mode. You just don't know you know the Mixolydian mode. But the Mixolydian mode is exactly like the major scale with one exception. We have C major. Now the Mixolydian scale, Mixolydian mode is exactly like that except it has one exception. It has a flat 7. So instead of going, we would go, but since we're playing in the key of C, we wouldn't do it on C, we would do it on G. So you're in the key of C. If you go to the G, you would go, and see it wants to resolve there. You can it also comes up right here, right below the C. If you're C, G's right there. You got a G here, you got a G here. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you would have probably made this analogy before, that music is like a journey. You start off at home, everything's nice and cool. Let's step outside. Let's go somewhere. We're creating tension. Then we go, oh, we're getting tired now. I think I'm gonna go home. See? And that's kind of the journey that music takes you through when you're listening to a song. It's all about the creation, the development of tension, and then the resolution of tension to make you feel something. And that's how Western music works. So those are the modes. Those 3 modes anyway. We've got now in our arsenal of scales, we have a major scale. We have a Dorian minor scale. We have a Phrygian scale. We have a Mixolydian scale. We have a natural minor scale, Aeolian scale. And then we have, again, we also have our pentatonic scales and our blues scale, if you remember when we went over those. Alrighty? So your assignment with these is to take those, each of them, and go all the way around the circle of fifths. And it would be great if you could do them in 2 octaves. But just real quick, you got Dorian. Let's say we start Dorian on C. Then you go to F. B flat. E flat. A flat. D flat. G flat. Or F sharp, B, B over here, E, the other modes, go up 2 octaves if you can. Also, remember that when you're doing a C, and look at your circle of fifths, when you're doing a C Dorian, you're actually in the key of B flat, right? And so if you were, say you went around and you're doing the Phrygian modes and you're back over here to D, you're doing D. You're actually in the key of B flat. So keep that in mind as you go. So start with your major scale. You start with C, Dorian. Okay, and then you come back, you know you're in F, so then you do the G Dorian. And what I did when I started learning these is I just did them all the way around. So we'll get to that in a minute. I'll show you how I did it. It's not how everybody does it or learns it. I kind of learned on my own. I was kind of sitting in a practice room trying to figure out what they were telling me in a theory class, trying to figure out how to make it work in a jazz improv or in a jazz band class. And I just said, well, I'm just going to go over all these modes and apply them to the key centers. And that was how I learned it. That was years ago. I won't tell you how many years ago. That was years ago. Anyway, that's it for this one right now. I'm going to come back and then we will go over rhythm changes and we will go over a little bossa nova group. Alrighty?